TPL happens to have a really neat API for waiting on tasks to complete, because remember, a task is a unit of work, and at some point you might want to block execution until you actually get the task finished. So let's actually make a task. I'll make once again a task, new task. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'll have a task which takes exactly 5 seconds. So I take 5 seconds, and in this task we'll have a loop. So we'll have a loop going from 1 to 5, and here I'll basically throw if cancellation was requested. So let's get the cancellation token source and all the rest of it. So var cts equals new cancellation token source. We get var token equals new, or rather cts.token. We provide this token into the function here, and then of course what happens is we say token.throw if cancellation was requested. So we throw the operation cancelled exception if somebody does in fact want to cancel it. Otherwise we thread.sleep for 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. So we essentially do this 5 times. So we take 5 seconds in terms of execution, and then we can say console.writeLine I'm done. Okay, so here is my task. I can start this task, certainly t.start. Okay, so now that this task is running, I can actually wait for the task to complete, and it's rather easy. You can just do task.wait all, and wait all waits for any number of tasks, and you can see that it either takes an array of tasks or it takes params tasks. So here I can wait on this task, but I can also just t.wait. So t.wait will essentially wait on the task for as long as it's necessary. You'll notice that there are a bunch of overloads, and I even get a helper here telling me that it's possible to pass a cancellation token. Now this is relevant. Why? Because essentially if you're waiting on a task that's being cancelled, you can get the token telling you that the task has been cancelled reasonably quickly. So essentially, whichever option you choose, it's really up to you. You can certainly call task.waitAll, or indeed wait one, we'll see that in a moment, or you can say t.wait, and that waits on a task. Now let's suppose that you have some other task. Let's suppose that we're going to have another task. I'll make a simple one. So task t2 equals task.factory.startNew, start new, and I'll have just a task which sleeps for 3 seconds. So this one takes 5 seconds, and this one is going to wait for 3000 milliseconds. And once again, we're going to also provide the token here. So we have that same cancellation token. Okay, so you can t.wait indeed with a timeout, but you can also wait for all the tasks to complete. So I can say task.waitAll and t2, and in this case what's going to happen is we're going to basically wait until both of the tasks are finished, and that presumably means that we wait 5 seconds because that's the longer of the two. So here we are, and we are finally done. Now what I'm going to do is do something different. Instead of wait all, I'll do wait one, or wait any rather. Now wait any waits for any of the tasks to complete. As soon as one of those tasks is done, well, that's it, the game is over. And this time we only wait for 3 seconds, and that means that we are done, the main program is done, and you only get the I'm done from the first thread after the program has done executing, because remember, it took 5 seconds, but we only waited for 3. So that's interesting. It is actually possible to specify a timeout here. You can see that there is another argument, millisecond timeout, but if you want this, you need these in an array. So you need t and t2 in an array. If you do this, then yes, you can specify a millisecond timeout. I can say, for example, that I'm only prepared to wait for 4 seconds, which means that we'll get the this thread will wait for this thread, but not for the other one. So that's another thing. And of course you can also provide the cancellation token here. So if somebody decides to cancel the whole thing, then well, that's what you get. However, if you do use the token, then the rules of the game change slightly, because if you use task.waitAll, or if you use task.waitAny, let's actually change it to all, then canceling on the token actually fires an exception, which is scary stuff, because in this case what's going to happen is task.waitAll will actually throw that aggregate exception out, and that's a bit of a problem. If I actually execute this right now, it's going to be just fine because we're just waiting on all of these. However, if I decide to subsequently cancel on the token, so I'll do I'll do console.writeLine or console.readKey rather, and then I'll actually cancel. I'll say cts.cancel. You'll see what happens here. So this actually has to be up above here because that's how it works. So I'll press the return key and notice my program has crashed. I basically get an operation canceled exception which hasn't been caught. So this essentially means that we need to have some way of handling exceptions, and that's exactly what we're going to see in the next section, in fact the next recording. However, one thing I want to show you is the status of both of these. So let me get rid of the canceling text, and I just want to show you what the status is when we look at the task. So let me write line. I'll write line task T status is, and then T.status, and we'll do the same thing for T2. So let me just copy this. So T2 status is T2 status, and we'll actually take a look at what's happening here, because remember, if I stop it at 4 seconds, then task 2 would have completed, but task 1 would not have completed. So if I actually execute this and I wait for exactly 4 seconds, that's how long it takes, you'll see that T is still running, but T2 is ran to completion. So essentially you have this nice flag of status, which lets you know what's going on with this task, whether it's completed or whether it's still executing. There are actually different, lots of different statuses that a task can get. If we go into status, and if we actually look at the task status enumeration, you can see that the task can be created, it can be waiting to run, running, waiting for children to complete. We'll talk about children in a while. It can run to completion and can be cancelled, and it can also fault. So these are some of the statuses that you can check against.